we'll just give it 1 second once we'll let some people come in. All right, we'll get started. Good evening. My name is Billy Siddig. I'm the Assistant Athletic Director for Boston Public Schools, and welcome to our third BPS Athletics Speaker Series night. Tonight's a college night, and we're joined by a panel of athletic directors and coaches that are going to talk about requirements to become a student athlete at the Division 1, 2, and 3 level. And we have coaches that are going to speak about what they look for in a student athlete and sort of how to get on their radar and that whole process. So we are going to spend about an hour talking with them. And if there's any questions during the panel, you can put them in the Q&A or you can put them right in the chat and we'll hit them during the night. But without further ado, we could do a quick introduction. Starting with Nicole from Southern New Hampshire.
Hi, I'm Nicole Ham. I'm from Southern New Hampshire University. We're Division II, located in Hooksett, New Hampshire, which is right outside of Manchester, and I'm the Assistant Athletic Director for Compliance.
Thank you. I am an alum of Southern New Hampshire. I did my master's in sports management through you guys, so I appreciate you. Mary, go ahead.
Hi, Billy. Thanks for having me. Mary Mulvena, Associate AD at Northeastern University, located right here in Boston.
And I would have been an alum. I only stayed for 1 semester at Northeastern and transferred to Stonehill for my undergrad. Megan.
Thank you for having me too. My name is Megan Cullinane. I am the Assistant Athletic Director for Compliance and Student Athlete Welfare at UMass Boston, and we're a Division III institution.
Awesome. And Coach Harris is with you at UMass Boston.
I am. Thanks for having me. Jason Harris, head men's basketball coach at UMass Boston. Obviously, we're located in Boston.
Coach Potter.
I am Coach Potter, the currently but transitioning to, well, I'm currently the head track and field and cross country coach at Emmanuel College, which is located in Boston, right by Fenway Park, but I will be transitioning this upcoming week to director of cross country and track and field at St. Mary's College of Maryland. They're also a Division III institution located in Lexington Park, Maryland.
Awesome. And we really appreciate you guys taking the time out tonight to be with us. Question quickly to start off for the administrators. So I think there's probably a lot of confusion among student athletes on requirements on, hey, I want to play, I think I'm a Division I athlete, I think I'm a Division II athlete, or I think I'm a Division III athlete. Requirements on academics as I'm heading in to that process. So Mary, could you start off with like a clearinghouse intro for if I'm a Division I athlete, where I need to start, what age I need to start looking at it, and kind of go from there?
Yeah, thanks, Billy. We work with our coaches almost immediately, and it's really advising prospective students and guidance counselors to begin the process early on in their career, almost as freshmen, just so they kind of have a sense. Because at the Division I level, you have to complete 16 core courses. And within that, the 10 key items to keep in mind are 4 years of English, 3 years of math, along with 2 years of natural physical science, and then 2 years of a social science. Your guidance counselors hopefully have some background in this because they're the ones submitting what those core courses are at your respective high school. So be in touch with them. If your guidance counselor is unaware, we see that sometimes with newly appointed guidance counselors, they're not sure what the clearinghouse is. So they'll reach out to us to kind of help them through that process, and it's pretty streamlined. And I think the NCAA has done a much better job of helping students through that process. Also keeping in mind, your goal by the time you finish your senior year is to have a 2.3 GPA at the Division I level. From an SAT, ACT scoring, it's a sliding scale pending what your core GPA is. And the key factor is graduation, right? So when you're at high school, that should be your goal. And that's the goal when we get kids to our campus. So again, in terms of process, I would get on it right away with your guidance counselors, work with your coaches, because a lot of times they're in contact with our coaches at the Division I level, and they'll be able to provide some guidance on that front. And then once kids are able to have contact with our coaches, that's when the responsibility is on us, albeit maybe later in the process, to make sure kids are completing the appropriate classes.
Awesome. So we got to get our kids on it kind of right away. If we see that potential and we have those expectations, we have to have our kids starting that process out early, as soon as freshman year.
Yeah, we try to, but Billy, to be quite honest, when you're a freshman, you're just excited to be in a new school. So you're really not paying attention to it. And then, perhaps junior or senior year, that's when you kind of get in it. And sometimes we just see some kids not fall through the cracks, but we have to do some creative waivers if they're later in the process because they weren't aware of what the requirements were.
Awesome. And Nicole, I think Division II is close to the same requirements up front.
Yes, so we're close, a little less, but pretty much the same. So we also need 16 core credits, but only 3 years of English, 2 years of math, 2 years of science, and then 3 additional years of either English, math, or science, 2 of social science, and then another 4. And that adds up to 16 pretty quick, and language falls in there as well. You'll need a 2.2 core GPA. So your GPA of those 16 core credits has to be a 2.2 or better. It doesn't include your gym classes and cooking and all the fun classes that usually spike up GPAs. It's those core classes that we're really looking at. And then also our SAT and ACT is on a sliding scale. So if you have a 2.6 core GPA, your SAT has to be right around 770. Or your ACT is about 556. So the higher your GPA is, the lower your SAT and ACT requirement is. And then obviously we'll need proof of graduation. Similar to Mary, we want to get this process started as early as possible. We can't actively recruit until their junior year, but if we do have student athletes reach out, we give them the resources and we say, hey, this is what you need to do. We'll talk to you this summer before your junior year. Good luck. And then come senior year, we're kind of getting on them and really tracking and seeing if they're going to meet this requirement. And if they're not, for whatever circumstance, maybe bad grades or life situations or just advising mishaps, we either help to get them in summer classes to get them to those 16 core credits, or if there's a situation where we need to do a waiver, we're happy to do it.
Awesome. And Megan, Division III level is a little bit different from the 1 and 2, especially with clearinghouse type stuff. Can you talk about those requirements initially?
Yeah, for sure. So at Division III, we have a little bit more flexibility than Division I and Division II do. We don't have the 16 core classes that they have to have. It's more so similar to what they said. It's kind of just graduating is the biggest piece from your high school. And then Division III is a little bit interesting in the fact that it focuses on the institutional. So once you enroll in your institution, the biggest thing there is that if you're accepted into the institution, then you have to meet their admission standards. So that's kind of the biggest thing for us. But similar to Division I and Division II, it's really important that you're kind of having those conversations with your coaches, having those conversations with your guidance counselors so that you know that you're on track to at least graduate in high school. and then be accepted at the institution that's a Division III institution. So we do not have to go through the clearinghouse, but there is a section for Division III if you want to. It still gives you an ID number. And if you're not sure what division you're looking at, it is a free option through the clearinghouse. So that is an option for you as well. And it also is a great resource for institutions that are at the D3 level and have information about the Division III level and all 3 divisions as well.
Awesome. And for the coaches, right off the bat, I know, I've coached, I'm currently an assistant baseball coach at Wentworth. So we're a Division III program, and sort of the philosophy is to recruit like you're a scholarship program, right? So you want the best kids you can get into the school. And so can you kind of talk about the initial conversations that you guys have with kids around requirements and knowing that you want to have a high standard at your program. So what do you look for, and what do you talk about with the kids initially when you first have contact with them about your expectations for their academic requirements? Coach Potter, you can go ahead.
So the initial thing that I talk to student athletes about when they come on my radar, whether they reach out to me or I see them in a track meet or a high school coach or a club coach has reached out to me, is what are their academics? What do they look like? What do their grades look like? What does their test score look like? At Emmanuel, the school is test optional. So you don't necessarily need to have test grades. But I know that they're looking for a certain profile. And again, like the major they want to do may have certain requirements, like nursing. If someone's interested in nursing, the requirements are different than someone that just wants to do biology. So asking all of those questions are the initial thing that I look for. I'm also looking for someone that has an impact on the conference level, New England level, that'll be able to qualify for all New England's for track and field, and someone that, if they have the potential to grow into a national caliber athlete. I would love to have people that are going to go to nationals their first year. That's what I'm recruiting anyway, but that's not necessarily saying I'm going to get those type of kids, because I'm battling with D2 and D1s to be able to get those kids here on a Division III level. So I'm looking for that, the character of the kid. Is it going to be a good fit for them? And is it going to be a good fit for me as a coach? Are they coachable? Are they someone that I don't have to worry about in the classroom? Those are the type of things that I'm looking for. Are you problematic or not? Do I have to worry about what you're doing on social media? Those are the things that I'm looking for when I'm looking for a kid, because I don't want to bring someone into a program that I'm building and it's a constant headache. And it just seems like they're not learning from their mistakes. It's always something coming up, because if you're able to grow from things that you are going through and that you're learning from, that's a great time. Because I know that sometimes everybody has different backgrounds, they're dealing with different things, stuff happens, but they got to be able to learn from every situation and every adversity that they're in, and be able to become a better person and athlete from it. It's not always just about what you can do for me on the track, on the course, in the circle, in the pit, whatever it may be. It has to be like, what personality characteristics do you have to be able to contribute something positive to the program as well?
Awesome. I know, Coach Harris, you've had a lot of Boston kids in your program over the past 5-10 years. Can you talk about the conversation you have initially with them and your expectations of them as they are looking into your program and you're recruiting them?
Yeah, first I want to say that was a phenomenal answer there by Coach Potter. So that's tough to follow up right there. But for me, I think the very first thing I do when I'm sitting in the stands or somebody shoots me an email or a text is I Google you. And when I Google you, if it's social media and like Coach was saying, if it's stuff that I shouldn't be seeing right away, then it's probably not going to work right off the bat. Because again, at my institution, I'm lucky enough to where we're going to be judged on our kids, our graduation rates, you know, the transformation from what we get to what we put out at the end of the day. You know, if I'm going to win, but I got to win with kids that aren't doing the right thing, or it's awfully hard to do. I was at Division I for 7 years, and that's a different beast. And I came to this level. I played at this level. So it's important that college is something that this kid is interested in doing. Not college basketball, but college, because it really can change your life. I think that education is the way out of poverty, but you have to be willing to accept it. You got to be willing to work hard. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be really hard. And then the second thing is I want to see your grades, because like I said, I was at Division I for 7 years. An awful lot of, oh, he's straight, coach. He's straight. You know, and then you see these transcripts and it's like, he is not straight. So I want to see these grades, and then we can go from there. Then we can talk about on the court, what you can do for me, what I can do for you as a man, what you can do for the community. And that relationship, because it's a relationship and it's a family. I know it sounds kind of corny, but it's a family, and I take pride in my family. And sometimes we come up short on the court, but for the most part, I'm always proud of them and how they act. So as long as you can fit in with those guys, if you fit in with them, then I know you're good, because those guys are classy guys. They're good guys. So that's what I look for, guys that can fit into the family and guys that can make it.
Awesome. I know, a lot of our kids are looking for another family to get into from I think a lot of our high school programs do an awesome job at creating that family environment for the athletics program, and they're looking to get back into another environment like that. For the panel, anyone who wants to sort of chime in, who are the key people that a high school student athlete should have involved or have in their inner circle as they're looking toward the recruiting process and getting into college? Whether it's a coach, teachers, guidance counselors, like who do we need to have in our corner to advocate for us as we go through the process?
I'll go. I like to think everything in life is all about relationships. So if you can build as many relationships as possible, your path to wherever you want to go in life is going to be easy as possible. So always start with your high school head coach. They're probably the person you're closest to other than your parents right now. Then from there, go to your high school guidance counselor, figure out who's the person in charge of uploading transcripts to the eligibility center or clearinghouse. Then from there, reach out to the colleges that you want to go to, find those head coaches, send them an email, fill out a question, one of their questionnaires, get on their radar. Once you start actually recruiting with a coach, reach out to compliance. My email, Megan's email, Mary's email is very easy to find. You just go to the athletic website, search directory, and we're usually right at the top somewhere. Email us, hey, my name is so-and-so, I'm interested in playing basketball here. What do you need from me? And we will tell you straight up, we will give you all the answers and we will guide you the best we can. Even if you don't end up coming to us, we're still happy to help. We're one of the biggest resources in our athletic department. Compliance tends to know everyone and everything because everyone just comes to us and we kind of funnel people where they need to go. From there, once you apply to the college that you're interested in, connect with that admissions counselor. What do you need from me? What do I got to do? And the biggest thing is just being accessible and answering questions or answering the things that are needed from you. So if I'm like, hey, can you do this for me? I'm not asking you to do it just to make you busy or to waste your time. Like, it's actually going to help you in the end. If admissions needs you to submit your SATs and to fill out a questionnaire and do this, this, and this, it's for your own good. It's to move you along in the process. So I think that's kind of the path. You start at the high school and you kind of wiggle your way up to the college level, and anyone that you reach out to is going to be willing to help you.
Yeah, I think Nicole hit it on the head. And, for those of you that are playing in the club system or AAU, a lot of those coaches are pretty well connected as well. So don't be afraid to use those as a resource. Billy, we can probably provide you with direct links to the NCAA stuff, because if if we send everybody there, it's kind of the Where's Waldo of items. So it can be
Yeah.
pretty confusing for kids to find. You know, I've been doing this a long time, and even to find things that where we think they are not always easily accessible. But Nicole's right, just use your resources, you know, figure out what it costs to go to college too. Because that's a big component. And we funnel a lot of our prospective students through financial aid, just because that's a real issue for everybody, especially in today's climate.
I agree with both Mary and Nicole. And I think the only thing that I would add from a perspective of reaching out to alumni of your teams, I think that's really, especially ones that go on and play at the college level or at least went through the process. I think the kids that have been able to reach out to those athletes that have come before them, it helps them pave the way, and it helps them know the questions to ask, whether it be to the guidance counselor, whether it be to your club coach or a college coach. I think that's huge. They've been through it and they've recently went through it. So I think that's a big piece. And then also too, just like a mentor, whether it be someone at your high school or through your club, they're those people that you can go to, and maybe you reach out to the compliance person, they ask you something, you have no idea, and you don't want to send them an email back because you're nervous. That mentor is going to be able to help you out. Maybe they've been through that process too. And then the last thing, just to add on to what Nicole said, and then Jason's going to laugh at me, but we stress this all the time. If people send you an email back, make sure you respond. Don't let it just sit there, because a lot of times, like, we're sending those emails to help you. We're trying to give you the resources. We're trying to give you the information that you need to be successful. So don't just let it sit there for weeks on end and then send an email back a month later and be like, hey, sorry, I forgot about this. I know a lot of our coaches say all the time that it's so frustrating when that happens, but even from our perspective too, we want to help you out. So if you're not answering those emails or staying on top of it, it definitely speaks volumes.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you talked about recent alums that have sort of gone through the process. And I know, Coach Harris, you've had you know, kind of success with almost legacy type programs, right? You have one kid had success, you go back into the well. Can you kind of talk about the trust that's built through, you know, having success with one kid and one coach and developing those relationships?
Yeah, I just think it's about, you know, like you said, it's relationships, it's building relationships, it's being truthful and honest, because a lot of times the recruitment and the actual experience aren't the same. Because, you know, think about it, every coach is your best friend, everybody loves you. Oh, just come, it's going to be great, it's going to be great. And then first day of practice, you know, you get slammed with like 100 runs, and all of a sudden you're like, where's that nice guy? But I think at the very end, if you're treating them with respect, if you're doing the right thing, if you're doing right by the kid, I think most times even the coaches, you know, they're aware, like, hey, the kid might be in over his head, or there might be a little bit more depth ahead of them. So I just think I have a saying, and I'll try to edit it down for this, but I'd rather have you call me a jerk than a liar, right? And so we use it in recruiting all the time, and it's just, you know, we're going to tell you where you stand, and it's usually an adjustment, but you'll always know where you stand. You're never going to get blindsided by something. And usually you have more success with that. Like, we've had a lot of success with a couple programs in the city, and it's never a problem going back there. It doesn't mean you're going to get every kid out of that program, but it just means like you got a shot with the kid now. Any kid at our level who's good, it's going to have 25, 30 kids, 25, 30 different Division IIIs recruiting them. So you're just going to need something to kind of stick out, get you in that final three, you know, and then get in front of mom or dad and make a push. And it's Division III, so a lot of it's going to come down to financial aid anyways.
Yeah, for sure. And Coach Potter, so I'm a Division III type athlete, track and field in Boston. What's my best way to approach you, knowing that you may not be at our track and field meet at the Reggie Lewis Center, or I might not have a ton of film. So what's my best bet to start that process with you?
Email me, fill out a questionnaire. The questionnaires go straight to my email, so I'm able to see it. I think that's the best way to get in touch. I'm gonna be honest with you, because I'm guilty of doing this. Sometimes it's a lot of emails that happen during the day, And I may miss it, but I've had kids that email me again, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure I do this. Because a lot of times when some of the stuff come in, I'm at practice. So I may see it on my phone and be like, I got to get to this later. Or someone, AD calls me, somebody else comes into the office, a kid comes in, like it's very hectic. And, with being at Emmanuel, I'm the only full-time coach there for track and field, and having 60 kids, it's hard sometimes to be able to do the stuff day to day, dealing with stuff that comes up, and recruiting. I have great part-time assistant coaches, but they still have jobs too. So I would say definitely email me. If you don't hear from me within a week, email me again. But I try to make an effort to respond back, say, hey, when is a good time to talk to you? Or send a text. If your phone number isn't attached, I can't text you or call you. But if you fill out the questionnaire with all your information there, I'm able to go back and find that information to connect with you. But if you just email me and say, hey, I'm interested, I do the decathlon, or I've done this, these are my distances or times or whatnot, I'm definitely going to say, hey, I'd definitely be great to talk to you. When is a good time for you to talk? And it's up to you to respond back to me, because I've emailed a bunch of kids that have emailed and expressed interest, and they do not respond back. And, it's a lot when track and field, you're coaching men, women, and it's 24 events that you have to cover. So it's a lot. And I think sometimes with track and field athletes, they don't understand that recruiting is a lot as compared to a sport like basketball or volleyball. The roster sizes are smaller. So, track and field, it is a numbers game. The more depth you have and the more talent you have in certain events, you win. The more talented you are, the better off you'll be. You'll be able to compete at a national level, beyond conference, things like that. So I think sometimes, and I've done recruiting with kids too that have reached out, set up one-on-ones with them and their parents, and men specifically say, hey, I want to go to school for free. I feel like I'm better than D3 when you're actually not even good on a D2 level or a D1 level. You may not even be good on an NAIA level, but they don't understand with track and field, the numbers don't lie. Right. What you run is what you run. That's the time. It's you and the clock, or you in the circle, or the sand pit, or whatever it may be. It doesn't lie. Like track and field is one sport you cannot lie, because we have several databases where we can go look it up. So, definitely I would say reach out. If you haven't heard from me or another coach, reach out to them again. You have to be persistent, because again, like the coaches may already have a list of kids that they're looking at, and you may be somebody that flies under the radar, and maybe, somebody that's a late bloomer and add depth. I've come across a lot of those, and they've progressed quickly in a good upward motion. But, it's just a matter of you making sure that I know your name and I know who you are.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We just put in the chat, there's a NCAA eligibility registration information website that everyone should kind of bookmark if you are a prospective student athlete. We had a question in the Q&A that I want to get to kind of right away, and coaches and administrators, I'm sure everyone is kind of dealing with it, but the question is, how can you get recruited when you don't have footage / highlight tapes for coaches to see, since COVID kind of took away our season? So if I'm a junior spring athlete last year, I didn't have a season, or I'm now a senior or a junior in the fall, we didn't have a season. So how are you guys dealing with that, and kind of what's the process? I imagine, talk about if there's been any shifts in the NCAA rules for contact and that type of thing, but also, what am I doing? What can I do to get myself out there if I have kind of got a couple seasons taken away from me?
I'll go since. So for spring track got taken away from the juniors last year. They still had indoor track. So if you had video from indoor track and some cross country got taken away this year, I would say send that or send footage from practice, because track and field is one of those sports where I can pretty much see what you look like based off of what you're doing at practice, whether it's drills, a workout, whatever it may be. If you have stuff from practice that you're doing, you can send that. Or a lot of times, because of the meets being taken away this summer, state meets not being able to happen, because we have some kids that may play basketball and then they run track, and they only do outdoor track. I would just say send what you have from your junior year if you do cross country or indoor track and field. Send what you have from your sophomore year. I understand like there are growth spurts that happen, but being able to have that and the practice footage, I think goes a long way in recruiting, because it is hard right now for track and field, like on all divisions, to recruit. Because some of the Division I coaches and Division II coaches that I know are having a hard time trying to figure out who they're going to recruit, because the top tier athletes, they're already out there and they're already gone. But somebody that could have popped off late, they may not know about that person because they didn't have a season. So it's kind of like crabs in a barrel right now for track and field athletes that are juniors. But being able to have that footage from practice, I think will go a long way, because like we can't go to campus, to like high schools right now and be able to see you.
Right.
Because there's plenty of times where I've just gone to campus just to watch practice or just to talk to them, things like that. But being able to have that, I think for this year goes a long way, because it just shows how you're developing and just helps the coach make a decision as far as like, okay, is this person gonna, go up or down depending on when they get to college, because the transition from high school to college can be a little tough for freshmen if they aren't one, fully grown, because sometimes girls have growth spurts and guys their freshman year. Two, aren't really strong, never hit a weight room. You're already going to have a progress up once you hit the weight room. And three, if you just don't understand proprioception in your body, that definitely goes a long ways. Being able to see, okay, is this person pigeon-toed? Are they knock needed? What's their foot strike pattern? Things like that. I think goes a long way in track and field.
Yeah, quickly for me, I'd probably say don't go to prep school, because I've spoke to a lot of kids and that seems to be the answer. Like, oh, I'm looking at prep, and we haven't had an April, we didn't have a July. You're probably not going to have a season. It just doesn't make sense. Don't go to prep this year. What I would say is send what you have. Like Coach Potter said, it's easy to do it's better than nothing, but get an iPad and film yourself out working out, at a gym or outside. Show me your handle. Show me you can hit 53s in a minute and a half. You got to improvise. Everybody's got to improvise. And then lastly, you think about recruiting. They don't know what's going to happen if they expand the rosters or the scholarship limit to 15, which I'd assume they will for at least a year. Those kids aren't going anywhere. So then those kids are going to stay, and the scholarships you've already offered, those kids are incoming, and there's already transfer. It's just going to be a disaster. I think just sit tight. Nobody's playing anything unless you're, Division I for a while, I think. So sit tight, save your money and be ready. Get ready so you don't gotta, so you don't gotta get in shape when they call for that workout, because it's coming.
All right. Has there been any shift in the NCAA Division I or II admins? I know the recruiting calendar is tight a lot of times. Has there been any leeway or adjustments made?
So we've been in a dead period all summer, and it's until January 1st right now. We'll know in a couple weeks if it's going to be extended, and they're looking to pretty much shut it down another couple of months, just where the pandemic is. We had a town hall with some of our winter sport coaches last week, and similar to what the coaches spoke of, they're like, just get us, whatever video you may have. Our hockey coach, he commented that it's really hard to see these tiny dots, because the video quality, but at least it's something. And they're changing the way they think about recruiting too. There's a lot of meeting with families via Zoom if they're able to recruit those kids. They are doing like the home videos like Coach Harris had mentioned. And, from conversations with my coaches, because we're working through all that stuff where they try to have all their kids signed by now, but they're managing kids that are going to be back next year. And so they may hold off on kind of that middle tier group of kids that they wanted to sign now just to see where things go, and they can actually hopefully see them in person. But it's been challenging all around. I feel bad for our current kids who had to go through the shutdown of their respective seasons, and then the kids in high school that are looking to extend their career beyond that level.
Yeah, I know the spring kids have now gotten 2 additional years if they want to stay in college forever. They could potentially play up to 6 seasons, I think. Nicole, anything at the Division II level that you guys are experiencing?
Yeah, so we're kind of also experiencing the domino effect of returners not leaving when they should have or could have. So fortunately for SNU, we don't limit roster size, so we can have a roster size of 70 baseball guys if we wanted to. I might not be a happy camper from the compliance side, but if we had an influx of freshmen that were willing to pay to come, we're going to take them. But the athletic aid opportunities are going to be slim because, as personally our institution, we like to honor our athletic aid, and we're not going to take it away from someone who gets a season back and continues their education, because we do have a master's program, obviously, that. So if one of our seniors rolls over as a graduate, we most likely will still honor their athletic aid, so that limits the opportunities for freshmen coming in. I don't want that to be discouraging or anything, but it's honestly the harsh truth about it. And our recruiting is kind of delayed. SNU, we're not allowed to do any sort of recruiting. Our coaches can only do virtual emails, phone calls. They can't see anyone in person. They can't have anyone come to campus. So that definitely hinders that. But our coaches are being creative, and sometimes they like to push the limits, and they ask me these crazy questions of, can I do this, this, and this? And I'm like, think you might be breaking the rules. Let me check. But they are making the effort to still recruit. They're not stopping, and that's the expectation is for them to still recruit, because being a former athlete myself, sometimes when you get to that 4th and 5th year, you're almost ready to be done, and it's exhausting. Division I, II, and III, it's a high caliber of athletics, and sometimes when you get to your final year, you're ready to be done. And I am experiencing that with some of my athletes, that they are ready to be done after their 4th and final year, even if they have an extra season. So don't let that discourage you into not trying and just settling for a PG year. Still make the effort and reach out to coaches, because they are still recruiting.
Awesome. And Megan, Nicole quickly touched on contact and the rules for their coaches, and how hopefully Coach Harris isn't skirting any rules. But can you talk about kind of the obviously there's limited contact, and it varies immensely between divisions on what coaches can do. Quickly talk about the Division III limitations on contact between coaches and prospective athletes.
Yeah, so similar to what Nicole and Mary said, from a COVID year, it doesn't look the same as what it normally looked. Our campus is actually closed right now, so we can't have kids on campus right now to see the campus and kind of do that stuff. So our admissions office has been creative in creating videos that some of our coaches have asked for and used those, but mostly it's kind of going through the channels of Zoom, phone calls, emails. That's kind of what a lot of our coaches are going to be using when they are recruiting this year. So again, it's not what they're used to. We have a lot of unofficial visits at the Division III level because whether they're checking out the school themselves or they reach out to the coach and they're coming to meet the coach on campus. We know we're going to be online again for the spring semester, so that's kind of something too. So it looks like we might be kind of doing this all year of kind of a virtual piece. Some of our coaches have taken that in strides, and some of them are still just kind of trying to figure it out with that. So I think just switching to virtual has been really big. The NCAA has been a little bit lenient in regards to normally with a prospective student athlete, if it was an off like a call or something like that, it had to be all private. At the Division III level, they did open it up so like multiple prospective students could be on one call from a virtual standpoint if they would have been on campus together. So that's where the NCAA has changed it a little bit this year. I think there's going to be a lot of rules that come into the virtual effect. The NCAA is trying to adapt those as they can and get them to the conferences and to the compliance people as soon as possible. But it is definitely a learning curve this year. And we're just kind of adapting as best as we can to the situation. In regards to a calendar, we don't have quiet or dead periods or anything like that. It's just very similar to the Division I and Division II in regards to when they can visit you off campus. And then our official visits don't start until January 1st of their junior year. I know at our institution, we don't do a lot of official visits. We really focus on those unofficial visits for them to come see the campus, meet the team, meet the coaches. But we aren't restricted as much as Division I and Division II in regards to the recruiting calendars.
Awesome. Mary, I'm a potential Division I athlete going in, between my sophomore and junior year. What can I expect contact wise from a coach? I'm going to email and text him. What can him or her, what can they do back? What should I expect?
Yeah, it really depends on your sport. There's more flexibility if you are basketball for earlier contact, and that's just the nature of that sport. I mean, Coach Harris can speak to like the AAU involvement, and we've tried to cut that down a little bit so there's more of that one-on-one. For most other sports, it's not until junior year or senior year, with email correspondence, and then really the official visits and phone calls will generally occur in senior year.
Awesome. Nicole, same boat?
Yeah, pretty much June 15th is the earliest we can really start recruiting. So your sophomore year ends, and then it's June 15th going into your junior year is kind of when the ball can start rolling. But, I'd still suggest that you reach out and you're the one to make initial contact because coaches have hundreds and hundreds of athletes to consider and to look at, and it can be overwhelming as a coach. So as long as you get your name on their radar, they can kind of, recognize your name as things come through. And then yes, our visits in normal years would occur through junior and senior, and then potentially a tryout the senior year if the coach is interested in doing that with you.
Yeah, that's a big advantage Division II has, to have the kids be able to come work out. It seems like a little loophole that you guys have, which is great. So I'm a BPS. Our kids, it's a varying backgrounds, right? So some have more resources than others, and some are kind of diamond in the rough. If I am athlete and I want to play in college, what's the best bang for my buck, Coach Harris? Am I gonna do, a showcase run by a recruiting website and get my name out there that way, or kind of what's my best road to get seen?
Are you asking me pre-COVID or COVID? Because pre-COVID, I would tell you.
Give me both answers.
Pre-COVID, I would tell you high school is your best bang for your buck. It's free, right? It's free.
Right.
Sometimes in AAU, you have the tendency of playing for the best program you can get on. And really what you end up doing is just paying for the top 4 kids to go on the trip. So that's a little gem for mom and dad. What I would tell you now, scouting services are probably a waste of money as well. And the reason I say that is because if you have that much film out there, then we've seen you. And we don't need another email like Coach Potter was saying to add to the 182 we got. 154 of them are for a Slovakian guard, or an Australian, or somebody that, you know, doesn't apply to us because we don't have financial aid. So, you know, I would say personal contact, you know, having film, having grades, and the workouts for us are so big. Coming up, playing open gym. I know at Division I, the workouts were so big, the unofficial visits. So really getting yourself on campus, it's twofold. One, you see the campus, you're able to meet the coach, meet the guys. A lot of times that's what sticks out for me is when a kid shows up in my office and I'm able to remember, oh, hey, that's Steven, as opposed to Steven what? Steven Souza, Steven Jones, Steven Smith. And I got 7 Stevens just emailed me this week.
Right.
So that's what I would say. It's really, a lot of it's really a hustle. It's a sham. Use your money on SAT prep. That's what I would recommend.
Awesome. Coach Potter, anything, direction for a kid that has 1 or 2 shots at this and wants to make the best impression they can?
I agree with Coach Harris. There's a lot of different scouting services that's out there for track, but you have MileSplit, you have athletic.net. All of your stats are there. All of your information is there. So the best way to do it, like I said before, is to email the coaches that you're interested in. Make yourself stick out. Do something different than somebody else that's emailing me. What makes you different than 15 emails? I get a lot of emails from people from Kenya. They are not coming over here to be at a Division III institution.
Unlikely, yeah.
So I just, it's hard because it's like you talk to the coaches, you tell them you're Division III, you only give academic scholarships, and they have to apply for that. And it's hard being an international student because you don't get financial aid. So sometimes it's hard for them to understand that, even though they're trying to market the kids, because a lot of the international kids you don't know about, but some of them you do. For kids in the States, I wouldn't necessarily say you need to go that route, because if I'm looking at the top, let's say I'm looking at the top 100 times in the 100 in the state of Massachusetts, and your name doesn't fall within that list, then email me, reach out, fill out the questionnaire. But if you're willing to come to campus, that makes all the difference. I definitely push overnight visits. I definitely push, come to campus, see campus, be able to meet the team, because I'm honest through the recruiting process. I want you to feel as though this is somewhere you can see yourself, so that you don't say she lied to me, because I'm not going to do that. I want you to feel like you know what you're getting yourself into, because there are a lot of kids that say, hey, like Coach Harris said, I got the campus and you were a totally different person in the recruiting process. And now you're calling mom and dad saying, hey, I don't know who this person is. Why am I here? It's not a good fit for me from a personal standpoint. So, being able to put yourself out there, market yourself, make yourself versatile, do something different, be creative. I think that goes a long way, rather than doing the recruiting services.
Awesome. I know, particularly probably at the Division III level, it's about finding that hidden gem or the kid that falls through the cracks a little bit and probably is a scholarship kid, but you guys grab him when he doesn't have an offer and he kind of flourishes under you guys. I know the ability to get your name out there and develop those relationships is important. I am going to try to take a few questions from our attendees, and we'll see how this goes, and if I don't screw it up technologically. But Deja, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Go ahead. Do you have a question for the panel?
I don't really have a question. They made it pretty clear for me, actually.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Deja.
Thanks for being here, Dave. We appreciate it. Let's see. And we got Malcolm, who I'm sure is going to have a question for Coach Harris, if I had to guess. Coach Smith, how you doing, man?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are on.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like a two-part. I was coaching for Division III for over 8 years. Basketball, and I'm listening here and how creative ways. But it just seems that I don't know now. But back in my days when we were doing a lot of recruiting, it was mandated for me to send out letters to each and every Eastern Mass high school. Even in the whole state. With a list of, coach, introductory letter, this is this university. And, we just see if you had any, seniors that, you may think that can play at this level and everything else. It's funny because we don't get those anymore. We don't get those anymore, as in terms from some of the schools, the Division III schools and things like that used to show letters of interest. My other question is, what do you do now? Because I know what you're saying about the emails and things, but what for like the Division I, what would you say be the best practices if you're, I know how you guys are, we don't want emails. You get inundated with them, but what happens now if you continuously call this program, continuously call, and you don't get any type of response back, and you feel as though you may have a kid that is borderline that you want them to take a look at, you think that can help their program, but can help them in different, just you feel as though that he's a scholarship kid to a level, you know what I mean? But you're not getting any type of response back from that local university. What would be your next step? What would you suggest?
Go ahead.
Coach, I kind of feel like I know who you're talking about. We'll allow him to remain nameless. But what I would say is you probably have to reach out to a third party. You're probably going to need one of these prep scouting gurus that run the prep school or along those lines to call the Division I program you're looking for.
Oh, that's how we got to do it now, huh?
Yeah, because honestly, I remember when I was at Division I, the amount of calls you'd get, and all meaning well, all high school coaches, but your evaluation and my evaluation are usually really far off, and I get paid to do this, and that's the way I kind of would think about it at times, and I know that's the general thought. You see the kid every day, and sometimes we would mess up. All the time we would mess up. That's we're coaches, but I think probably getting a third party to come in and vouch for him. Because it's tough. Sometimes these coaches, they don't want to go if they don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, no, I gather so. I just, it's just hard. I don't know. I just been in the game a long time, and sometimes I don't know a lot, but you know what I'm saying. I do know talent. You know what I mean, and I'm one who really, believe me, I'm from that old school when Division was scholarship, man. You know what I mean. We're from that same old school, you know what I mean? Where some of these kids now that are scholarship level, back in our day weren't that. So, I guess times have changed, but no, I appreciate that.
Coach, we're not the same age. You can't say back in our day. There was a few days between our days. So
you got me by a few, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Malcolm.
Yeah, no problem.
Quick one for the group as we start to wrap up, but and I think the administrators are well qualified to talk about it, but I think kids don't really know the commitment level. I'm sure Coach Harris would say, well, it'll be very similar to what Mary talks about from Northeastern, but what's the commitment level and what are we looking at for a Division I athlete, and we'll kind of go right down, but if we want to play sports, what are we looking at, hours a week, practices, off season, that type of thing?
Yeah, it's a lot. Just to be perfectly candid, I was a Division I athlete, and it was quite a transition from the high school level. Technically it's 20 hours a week, but you're going 6 days a week. With a day off, and you're in season. Out of season, you get 2 days off, roughly speaking. But this is your craft, so our kids are going hard, and they're really managing, their athletic component as well as their academic. And our academic team is outstanding. But it's also a credit to our kids the way they manage the process. But I think the transition of, whether you're going at 6 a.m. for training, which could be different for some of the high school kids, or, you're going late at night, and your days are pretty extended with, if you start at 6 a.m., you have practice, you're in class, and then you're in study hall that evening. So it's adjusting to that, your travel schedule. But again, I think our team at Northeastern prepares our students for that. And we have the resources to help them, with time management. And the skills that you build as an athlete, regardless of division, are insurmountable when you go off, into your respective careers after graduation.
Yeah, no, totally. I think, businesses want, companies want student athletes, right? Because they can manage their time, and they're driven, and they're leaders, and there's the whole thing that it's a huge benefit to be able to playing at any level as you go into your career. Nicole, not probably it might be some hour limitation differences, but the commitment's probably not too much different at Division II level, right?
Yeah, so we're still 20 hours while you're in season with 1 day off. It is still such a commitment. Yeah, we're Division II, and we promote it's life in the balance, but you have to be all in. You have to be all in with your academics and athletics. I was a Division II athlete, and if you don't take the time to take care of yourself and really look at what you're doing, all right, I'm a Division II athlete. I have to stay eligible. I need good grades. I want to graduate, and I want to move on. What do I need to do to kind of stay on track? And when I was an athlete, maybe not too long ago, but we didn't have all these mental health resources and all this guidance that we have now. Like, our athletes have so many resources for mental health and nutrition and all this stuff to keep them on track and make them as successful as possible. What I do with student athlete success is when we have freshmen coming in, I look at their transcripts and say, all right, this kid's lingering around a 2.3. Let me put him on or her on my watch list. Let me check in with them, a few weeks into their semester, make sure they're doing okay, make sure their academics are okay. Let me check in with them, make sure their athletics are okay. And, while it's technically, like Mary said, 20 hours a week, there's study hall that doesn't count towards the 20 hours. There's community service, there's team bonding, there's pasta dinners, there's just hanging out with your friends. It all adds up, and you still need time to do your homework. So yes, it can be overwhelming, but now there's so many resources for our students. If you're open to them and you accept them, to be successful. As a high academic person, it might not be as hard because the academic piece comes easy, and then you just focus on athletics. But if you do struggle academically, then you're going to be spending more hours in the academic center or with the tutor. But at the end of the day, you're a student first, and then you're an awesome athlete after. So if you take care of your stuff in the classroom, athletics is going to be that much easier and less stressful.
Sure. Megan, is there similar limitations at the Division III level?
Yeah, so I would say there's similar limitations. I think a big piece of that too is that at Division III, they focus on the academics first. Obviously, that's across all 3 divisions, but they want the student athletes to have the experience of a regular student at the institution. So I think what's really different from a Division III level, not only do they have that commitment of athletics, they're doing their community service, they're doing the team events, they're doing seminars and everything like that, but also too, they're part of clubs, they're part of programs. And a lot of our student athletes at the Division III level, they're not on scholarship. So they're working, they're going to academic hours, they're doing a lot of things on top of athletics that sometimes that Division I and Division II is kind of taken care of. So I think that's just from a Division III perspective, there's a lot more hours that go into kind of building you. At UMass Boston, we're really lucky. We have an academic program, we have academic advisors and strength and conditioning, but sometimes at Division III level, you don't have that. So it's kind of on your own, and doing that work around to make sure that you are successful. But like Nicole and Mary said, the resources are there, whether it be through the athletic department or through the institution. You just have to take advantage of them. And I think just from a Division III level student athlete, sometimes they're multi-sport athletes too, just because they're continuing their athletic career. So the time frame is definitely just as committed at Division I, Division II, but then you add on those extra life things as well that they have to take care of.
Yeah, for sure. I know just coaching at Wentworth now, the first night at meetings before tryouts, we do, priority list. So it's school, family, and then baseball or the sport comes next. And it's difficult for some kids to be able to handle because college is a huge shift, right? It's like you're out on your own for the first time and there's a million things going on, and your priorities might be different going in than what your coach potentially has for priorities. So Coach Potter, is those priorities, is that list similar to what you guys have at Emmanuel?
Yes. The only difference is for strength and conditioning, a lot of times for us, being as though we practice at the Reggie Lewis, our schedule isn't the same as all of the most of the other sports on our campus. I just happen to be strength and conditioning certified. So I'm I'm the person that's overseeing the weight room. We don't have someone in there overseeing it. He writes the workouts and I give them the papers, but like we go through it. But I am writing the workouts for our distance kids. Just because our strength and conditioning coach doesn't have that much experience writing workouts for distance athletes. But it is a commitment. What I do to try to make it easier is we have a meeting September-ish, early October. You have a calendar for the entire year of when practices, where practices, when community services, when we're doing team events, everything is laid out for you. So you know what's going on, where you don't really have to ask me what's going on. And the kids appreciate it because they're like, okay, I can schedule this club meeting on this day, knowing what time practice is supposed to be to and from. I know when I can do homework. And I think a lot of kids going into college don't realize they have so much time on their hands. A lot of times what they're doing in between, you may have, say you're done with classes at 11 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Practice isn't until 4:30. So what are you doing in between those 5.5 hours? A lot of them are sleeping in their room. They're taking naps and they're not managing their time correctly and procrastinating. So that bleeds over into, coach, I can't make it to practice. Coach, I can't make it to this. Coach, I can't make it to that. When in reality, you can if you manage your time better. So I've had a lot of freshmen that runs into that problem. So we go over to the Academic Resource Center and we sit down and they do time management over there, or they'll have a one-on-one with me. We're going to sit down and do time management. But I know that stuff comes up sometimes where it may be class related and you can't get out of it. But there's very few conflicts with practices and meets and things like that. But I give them everything that they need in the beginning so they cannot say, I didn't know about practice today.
Right. No, that's great. And Coach Harris, I know you know what you're getting during the season, right? You're getting a 2-hour practice and you're playing 3 times a week. But what's your expectations of the kids in the off season? If I'm a freshman coming into your program September and I'm starting around Columbus Day with you guys, what am I looking at before and after?
So that's the scary part. That's the scariest for me as a Division III coach when I don't have them in season, because our compliance office is that's the scary time for me. Just because at Division III we're not allowed to work with them in the off season, so it's a lot of peer-led workouts and things, strength and conditioning and things like that. they're all strictly voluntary. I would never force anybody to go to any of those things. I just want to be on record with that.
I was just gonna say, it's just being recorded. So,
yeah, but the thing is during season, like Coach Potter was saying, we had a kid this year, and it's happened to us in the past where we had a kid play 35 minutes in a game, have time for 2 slices of pizza, a Gatorade, and then he had to go work third shift. And then he worked all night, got about 2 hours of sleep, took the bus back in or took the train back in, went to class all day. Then we had film, lift, practice. Then he had to go to third shift again. So life is hard. Life is really hard. If it's important to you, then you'll find a way to get it done. If you're struggling, come and talk to us, right? There's days where I pull a kid aside. Hey, what's going on? Well, coach, I didn't eat because I worked, such and such, and we'll go eat and then come back and join us. So it's about being a human and just understanding. We're at Division III. I remember at Division I, the answer was always money. We always had resources to fix it. If there was a problem, we had somebody, a resource somehow to help them fix it. Here at Division III, I'm the resource. Megan's the resource. Our staff and administrators are the resources. So we have to, like Coach Potter said, get better at time management and reevaluate what our priorities are. And I think those things will help men, women. They'll help them all going forward once they graduate. You're going to have to learn how to put your family first, and your job, and all those things those are things that are mandatory, right? Those shoes, that vacation. If you're only getting things done the days you feel good, you're not going to get anything done. So you got to get to work, man.
I would say to add to communicate with your coaches. That's a really big one for me.
Before.
Yes, before things happen. Don't just show up afterwards. Because I give my kids a booklet too, and they have to sign it so they know all the team rules. AD approved it, everything. So they can't say, and communication is one of the things that's in there. Communicate with me beforehand, not after life took place, because like coaches, we understand that life happens. Like life happens for us too, but you got to be able to communicate and communicate efficiently in order for us to help you understand what's going on, instead of you just thinking, oh, coach is going to yell at me because I didn't show up to practice. Well, coach should yell at you for not showing up to practice because they don't know what's going on. For all we know, you could be dead in a ditch somewhere because we don't know what's happening. So just communicate. Even through the recruiting process, communicate.
Yeah, no, the communication piece is everything. Go ahead, coach.
Really sorry. And the last thing I'll say is, as coaches, we've seen it all, we've heard it all, or we've done it all. So one of those, like, no matter what you come to us and tell me, I know a coach who did it, I did it myself, or, Megan came and told, like, trust me, there's nothing that you're going through that one of us can't at least help you. Don't feel like you're alone with it. Come and talk to me. We'll get through it, and then I'll run you. But, that stuff is after the fact, like helping you manage this crisis at the moment, because that's what it feels like, is what we're here for.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know our kids go through a ton of different things, and like you said, balancing or having to go to work after practice or after a game. A lot of our kids are going through that already. So a lot of those kids are prepared in that sense to balance, and they're getting an early jump on prioritizing, and a lot of our kids are sacrificing some of their own stuff to put their families ahead. So they're doing an awesome job with that, and we are really proud of them for kind of stepping up and becoming adults a little earlier than I did, and maybe most of us did. So it's a kind of a feather in their cap for a lot of Boston Public Schools student athletes that they're doing a lot of other stuff besides getting out on the court or the field for those 2 hours for the game. So we are proud of them for that. And I am super thankful to you guys for taking an hour tonight and talking to our student athletes. It's going to be recorded, and we'll kind of blast it out, and so much awesome information that you guys share. We really appreciate it. As we kind of talked about behind the closed doors. We're in a tough spot where our spring, fall, and at least part of our winter is sort of being taken away from the student athletes. So we're trying to give them as many resources as we can to try to get them on the road to normalcy or whatever the new normal looks like. And you guys are awesome, and the tidbits that you guys shared are great. We really appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully our student athletes will be matriculating to your spots, and I know some already have, and you guys have done a great job with them. So we're appreciative to you guys, and we will look forward to seeing everyone again soon. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.